This is the best day ever. I've been waiting for this day for 5 months, and it has finally come. It's here. It's finally here in my hand. Come on. Here we go. What can I say about the Avengers that no one has said before? It's definitely one of the best superhero movies of all time, and one of my all-time favorites, so the more I sing its praises, the more redundant it will be. But what I'm here to talk about is video games, as you can tell from what's going on behind me, that I know probably 1 or 2 things about video games. The Avengers didn't really have a tie-in game, which is really strange. Even the worst movies have games. Green Lantern had its own game. This is a terrible Walt. At least we didn't get an Electra video game. Thank God. So why not the Avengers? I mean, you can include the Avengers thing for Facebook, I guess, but that's not really my cup of tea, so I'm not really too excited about that. So why not make an Avengers tie-in game? There's been one that came out in 1991 called Captain America and the Avengers for the arcades. It wasn't exactly successful as the X-Men game that was made by Konami, but it had its moments. I mean, it supports 4 people co-op, which is really awesome. So, granted, the game, I guess, was successful enough to warrant a port. And that port is the Captain America and the Avengers, as you can tell, who easily got a top billing in this case. You can barely tell it's the Avengers unless I really, put it close to the lenses of the camera. As you can probably tell, I'm not really looking forward to this. You think I've probably been too kind to Sonic 3D Blast, but I'm not gonna be too kind for this one. So you're probably wondering, how bad is this game? Well, let's take it out and assemble Captain America and the Avengers.
Right ahead, when you boot up the game, you're thrust into amazing voiceover. Never have been so enthralled since the vacant yell of Ghostbusters from the same NES title. At the main menu, we have 1-player, 2-player, training, and options modes to choose from. I think it's a good idea to get acquainted with the game's controls instead of rules, so why not just start with the training mode? Okay, so this is something new. The training mode supports 2 people. Okay, maybe the game will teach us some cool 2-player combos. It's like Ren and Stimpy all over again. Let's see what's in store. What? It's a versus mode? Then why would you even call it training mode? There's even score tallying and all that, really? If you want to give us a versus mode, then just call it versus mode. Heck, I can even use a terrible font and just slap it on and BAM! Versus! Let's jump into the game. And boy, it is exciting. White text on black background. Genesis does show what Nintendo don't, as in Nintendo doesn't do that stuff anymore. And what's the story of this amazing game? Red Skull brainwashed the villains to work for him. Why? Why would you brainwash a villain to take over the world? If I was a villain, I think taking over the world would probably be somewhere in my priority list. Maybe number 3. But here's a better idea. Why not take control of the actual heroes? That would be a very good scheme. It's sad because I do believe Red Skull is one of the best Marvel villains, and fangirls may want to kill me, but I think he's even more threatening than Loki. Oh great, now you're giving me a picture? Well, that's nice. We have 4 superheroes to choose from. Captain America, Iron Man, Hawkeye, and... Vision? Okay, first of all, where are the Hulk and Thor? Sure, they're severely overpowered, but aren't they part of the original team? Why does the game not even mention them? Second, look at who we got. Who even knows Vision? He doesn't even look anything like his original conception. Look at this. The green outfit, the yellow cape, the red face. This isn't him. This Vision looks like Dr. Manhattan's long-lost albino brother. This game is a beat-em-up. For those who are not really familiar with the term, it means going on a linear path, beating up several bad guys, including the occasional boss, while collecting health upgrades. While you do certainly beat up plenty of bad guys, one of the most noticeable problems of the game is that there are almost no health pickups whatsoever. Quicksilver show up once in a while, but most of the time, you have to rely on the number of lives you get. The most you can have is 7, and you can't get any extra either. Well, we're in a good start. When you play other beat-em-ups, there is always a way to tell whether or not your attacks inflict damage or not. In this game, you can just punch and pray. You may throw the enemy once or twice, but you mostly pray. The enemies never flinch or freeze when they're getting attacked, which makes it all the harder figuring out if your attacks are even working or not. Even worse is when you get hit, you fly across the screen like a ragdoll with no means to fight back. This is the main problem of the game, and what makes the main feature of it, the combat, incredibly aggravating. Enemies can simply gang up on a character, and a simple touch causes them to fly off. I imagine superheroes will have a little bit more dexterity. You can use the A button to jump, and either the B or C buttons to attack. Pretty easy to learn. But let's be honest, we're here for the superpowers. So how come all I can do is just slap bad guys around and not even zap them? I tried pressing all the buttons that I have on the controller, but nothing really... Wait, I just shot something. Don't tell... Oh, you mother. Pressing A and B together shoots projectiles? Really? Whose idea was that?
You see, the problem is that the Genesis has 3 main buttons. A, B, and C. Now, if A is used for jumping and B and C are both attacks, why not just have C using the projectiles and B remains as the attack button? It doesn't even make sense!
There is no real distinction between the characters as they all punch and shoot projectiles, but what sets them apart is sadly their flaws. Iron Man's projectile attack is delayed by a second as he needs to raise his arm before actually shooting. Hawkeye's arrows feel significantly weaker than any other projectile in the game for no apparent reason, and Vision... well, no one wants to play as Vision. Captain America seems to be like the only character that is actually capable. His attacks are strong, and not only his shield throw doesn't have any delay, it even goes back to him, meaning you can hit the opponent twice as hard. Unlike many games at the time, the game does give you the option to block attacks, but even that is cryptic. The only way you can block an attack is holding the attack button, meaning you have to attack, wait a second, and only then you can block. Even worse, you can only block projectiles, meaning if the enemy punches you, there is nothing you can do other than, well, you guessed it, fly off in the wind. Hawkeye decides the best way to block an enemy's projectile is by holding his bow downwards. This looks extremely goofy. And the ridiculous part that it actually works! Hey, guys, try to aim at his face and not his bow. That would probably work. Vision just flashes. Yeah, I get it, he's turning intangible, but this looks more like a lazy job than making the sprite transparent. Even I can pull off the same effect!
Look at me, I'm blocking.
Like any other respectable beat-em-up, there are also items to pick and throw, but even that doesn't feel satisfying, I know. What a shock! I mean, what is this supposed to be, a hockey puck? Be careful, evildoers! Wayne Gretzky is here to fight evil! Oh, wait, he already did that. To break up the monotony of the game, there are also shooting segments. Those fare to be much better control-wise, as shooting hordes of enemies feels smooth and responsive. The only problem is that, well, those segments drag and lack any sort of challenge. All the enemies can be taken down by a single shot, and there are times where there's nothing on the screen. You can use Wasp to get rid of enemies, but because summoning her requires pressing A and B together, you might as well just use the regular shots since they inflict just as much damage. Oh yeah, and Hawkeye still doesn't understand the concept of blocking. Speaking of inflicting damage, the strongest attack in the game is the dash attack. While it doesn't look powerful, it does knock the enemies if it hits, and even destroys the bigger ones. While they all look cool, Captain America is easily the best one. I mean, just look at him. He's pulling off a Tom Cruise.
Just take those old records off the shelf.
Of course, this wouldn't be a beat-em-up game without having bosses. You'd fight the regular enemies like the Sentinel from the X-Men, lesser-known folks like Windmill, and even Shredder? What is he doing here? I don't know. The difficulty of those bosses ranges from painfully easy to ridiculously hard. The shoot-em-up bosses, like the squid over here, aren't easy, but at least those designed to be that way. The boss right after him, Shredder, isn't. Just use her overpowered dash and voila, he's dead. Even the final boss is so ridiculously easy. You can just remain under him, mash the attack button, and eventually win. The hardest boss in the game is easily Juggernaut. It's almost impossible to not lose a life when fighting against him, as there is almost no window to attack him back. I don't know if you guys remember this, but there's almost no health pickups whatsoever, so prepare to get hit a lot.
Don't you know who I am? I'm the Juggernaut, bitch!
Graphically, the game looks meh. I guess it's colorful, but the animation is sloppy, and like I said earlier, getting the colors wrong to one of your main characters is a pretty big mistake. Audio-wise, well, the music is okay, I guess. Nothing too memorable, but it fits the heroic spirit of the game. The most memorable things I can say about this game are the voice acting and the writing. Apparently one guy voices every single character in the game, and it becomes rather hilarious to hear his conviction to every single line.
The clap, you stupid men! Ha ha ha! We'll teach you the meaning of justice!
I think the part that cracks me up the most is when Wonder Man shows up, and it seems like they don't even know who he is.
Thank you, Wonder Man!
Thank you, Wonder Man. And do I even have to make fun of Shredder here?
See my power!
I know what you're thinking. This is just a superhero game. It's supposed to be over the top. Yeah, but it should also make sense. Take this amazing cutscene in which you stop those two henchmen from robbing a bank. Oh boy, where do I even begin? Why would the bad guys even say, "Don't disturb us"? Are they on their honeymoon and they need some privacy? And what kind of an answer is "why should it go well"? It doesn't even connect to what the villain said! At all! You can tell this game wasn't localized well, but even then, it doesn't even make sense. Just watch.
Where is the laser? Ask the police.
Oh, yeah, let me just make a call to the police right now and ask them, excuse me, I'm looking for a giant death ray made by this guy who has a red skull. Can you help me find it? The game's only major redeeming quality is that you can have a friend share with you the joy of playing this. Captain America and the Avengers is a mess. The controls are clunky, the attacks are weak, the difficulty is uneven, the writing is so bad, though kind of hilarious, the button placement is stupid, and it's easily one of the most frustrating beat-em-ups I have ever played in my life. My advice? Just track down Streets of Rage.
Captain America and the Avengers is not what I would call a good game. In fact, I'll be very hard-pressed to find anything good about it besides the hilariously awful writing. If your game has someone like Vision, why would you expect it to be a good game to begin with? It's the Avengers, guys. I mean, it's supposed to be like one of the coolest games of all time, and it's just not. you know what the worst part is? There are even more ports of this game! Ah, yes, we're blessed with more ports of this Drek, so there is a Super Nintendo port, and there is also an NES port. Oh yeah, we're gonna assemble some more.